Well, hey, all artist friends. Welcome back to the art room. Here we are. It's mannequin time. Okay, you are required to have at least one mannequin interacting with this cool three-dimensional space you've created, right? Because what on earth is the point of creating awesome three-dimensional space if we're not even going to bother to have anything interact with it, right? So enter our mannequins, okay? Now these mannequins are modeled after classical human proportions. So what we're gonna do is just a quick warm up, okay? You can see oh, I wish this had Xeroxed better, but you can see Miss Brown's awesome drawing here with the mannequin laid out via these proportions, because that's what they're supposed to represent, okay? So we're gonna go to this side of the worksheet and start our drawing. Go ahead and grab your pencil. If you're still working with that mechanical pencil, gonna work out great, okay, for doing this mannequin worksheet. So your name at the top, SRB, woo, I got a lot of lead showing there. Okay, sample, you of course should include whatever your class period is, right? 2B, 3A, whatever you happen to be, all right? So what we see happening here is the classical proportions of the mannequin laid out on a grid, okay? This is for average adult humans. Little kids, because they're still growing, they have different skeletal structure, it's immature, have actually different proportions than this. So this is for like adult people. All right, and we call these universal classical proportions because this is kind of an approximation of what the average human's proportions are for drawing out the figure, okay? So again, yes, I do realize, folks, that there might be, I'm sure someone out there who doesn't meet these exact proportions, right? We're talking just kind of average, right? What makes you look like you is you may have something that varies differently from this, but these are, like I said, average human proportions. Okay, so let's start first with the head. If we look at Miss Brown's sample here, there it is. We're going to start framing the head here, and the human body is approximately 8 head heights tall. So if we kind of like could take a head and copy paste it down the body, it'd be approximately 8 head heights tall. So here we go. I'm going to sketch in our mannequins. Have these kind of little tapered light bulb heads. And then to represent the joints on these figures, okay, they're all these little spheres, these little balls. Okay, so you're going to draw that in as well, right? So there's that little ball joint. Ooh, pardon me, okay? Now the torso, we're going to kind of draw the torso, hips, and everything down, then we're going to worry about arms. The torso, you can see here, okay, takes up approximately like 2.5 human heads, almost 2, right? You'll see that here on our sheet. And then we're going to define the middle, the waist, okay, where the torso hits the top of the hip bones, as this same ball joint that allows our mannequin to bend and move. Now we're going to leave the shoulder joints off just for a minute. Again, approximately at the shoulder height, okay, the human shoulder width is about, sounds nutty, I know, but it's approximately 3 human heads wide. Now the reason we kind of divide the torso into these 2 parts is this upper section is supposed to represent your rib cage. These are kind of your middle stomach muscle bits, and then this is the hip bone and pelvis area. Okay, so we'll draw that in. We're going to draw in that large kind of sphere ball joint that comes in from the center there. Okay, and then your hips are going to come right down about to line 4. That's about half your human height. Now I'm going really quickly through this, I apologize, but I don't want the video to take too long because I want you to really get onto drawing on your project, particularly if you're playing a little bit of catch up. Cool. So there's the torso. Now check it out. My goodness. Do you notice that our mannequins, and this means yours too, okay, your legs are approximately half of your total height. Isn't that nuts? You never really think about it. But your legs are actually pretty long. Now, even if you are a short person, right, your overall height is on the shorter side. These are proportions, meaning your overall height may be short, but the odds are your legs are still half of your total height, okay? So once again, our hip joints are represented by these little wooden balls. We're going to draw them in as well. And they're going to kind of come in at the top of section 5. And then we're going to draw in the top part of the leg, which would include things like the quadricep and the hamstring muscle coming down to the knee joint, and the bottom part of the leg, which would involve parts like the calf muscle and such going down to the ankle joint. Now, you do not have little skinny pipe legs, right? Sometimes I see students draw these mannequins like this. They have like robot legs. and it looks silly because these are meant to mimic what's actually happening with the human figure, which is that you have muscle that gives thickness to your legs. So you should see that taper, right? That thicker part of the upper part of the leg that represents the thigh, tapering to where it meets the knee joint. I'm a little bit low there. Let me bring that up. I'm trying to line up with my skeleton across the way. Okay, to our calf, right, and going down to the ankle, you'll see that taper. Right, because no matter what size we do our mannequins, we want them to be relatively proportional to our, go a little bit lower, to our overall human height. Okay, there we go. Again, if we're using our guesstimation to kind of line up with Miss Brown and what she's drawn on the back, you can use that as a guide as well. Okay, there we go. Okay, and then finally, we'll finish off at the bottom with the ankles that attach to the feet. Now, your foot is actually, much more complex than what we see here. It looks like our mannequins are wearing little wooden shoes. And that's because we're just representing the basic proportions of where the human foot would be. Obviously, the human foot is much more complex than what we necessarily see in our wooden mannequin. So we're going to represent that simplified version with his little feet there. Okay. Now the other interesting thing is we go to draw the arms. Similar issue. We don't want little skinny pipe arms, right? You have bicep, tricep, deltoid muscle, etc. That gives thickness to the upper arm, tapers as it goes to the elbow joint, and then the forearm muscles as well, same thing, kind of taper towards that wrist joint. So we want to have those arms with that thickness. Now this is where we're going to add in the shoulder joint, which finishes off the rest of the shoulder. It should come out to the far edge of these boxes, which gives you that lineup for the width of the shoulders for the head in relationship to that. And then check out how far down your arms actually go on the body. Don't believe me? Stand up and see. Your fingertips will hit about midway down your thigh. Your arms are actually much longer than you probably realize. So I'm going to sketch in the thickness of that arm, tapering down to the elbow joint. And then we're going to put in that forearm, okay, tapering down to the wrist joint. Ooh, it goes even a little bit longer than that, doesn't it? It goes a little bit further down. Right, so these mannequins aren't just like arbitrary little figures. They're meant to mimic these actual human proportions. And then finally, you'll see the mannequin's hands are represented by these little mittens. I mean, obviously our hands are much more complex, but they're just representing the basic proportions. So that's what we're going to draw in as well. Okay, and let's put in our little hands, and the ends of those little mittens should end just about halfway down the thigh. Awesome. So here we practice the proportions on our worksheet. What we're going to do next, okay, is actually bend our mannequins into some interesting shapes, okay, woo, okay, interesting positions, and have them now interacting with our boxes. Terrific. All right, thanks for watching, artist friends. Join me in our next video.